Okay. So today our webinar is titled How to Set Goals to Maximize Your Mentorship Experience. This is a webinar, an FIP CPG mentorship webinar. And our guest speaker is here with us in the person of Dr. Lucinda Maine. So apologies as our president and president-elect are currently not available. So I'll be handling the introduction. Please, next slide. Next slide, please. So I know you must have heard of FIP. So what does FIP stand for? FIP stands for the International Pharmaceutical Federation, and it started in the year 1912. And it's a representation of over 10 million pharmacists, if I'm not wrong, not just pharmacists, pharmaceutical scientists, as well as pharmacy educators all over the world. And they're also in collaboration with the WHO, which is the World Health Organization. And they signed a memorandum of understanding, which is to strengthen partnership around workforce, patient safety, primary healthcare, as well as other areas. So what is the vision of FIP? FIP wants a world where everyone is able to benefit from safe, effective, quality, and affordable medicines, as well as pharmaceutical care. And the mission is to improve global health by supporting the advancement of pharmaceutical practice, sciences, as well as education. Please, the next slide. So the FIP has some development goals, and they are 21 in number. And all of these goals are stemmed from the SDGs, which is the Sustainable Development Goals of the WHO. So if you'd like more information about these development goals, you can do that by going to the site that is being displayed on the screen. Please, the next slide. So let's talk about FIP ECPG. So what we are all about is advancing the profession right from the start. So Early Career Pharmaceutical Group was formerly known as the Young Pharmacist Group, and it was founded in the year 2001. That means we are 24 years old this year. And so the Early Career Pharmaceutical Group consists of early career pharmacists, pharmaceutical scientists, as well as pharmacy educators who have graduated like their first degree, be it PharmD, be it Bachelor of Pharmacy, within the first 8 years of graduation. And our mission is to promote the goals of FIP by being inclusive of ECPG membership, leading them to connect and take active roles in FIP projects as well as activities. So our vision is to see a future where early career professionals all over the world are empowered to make positive impacts in their communities as well as in their profession. Please, the next slide. So FIP CPG is currently present in 93 countries, and we have 42 subcommittee members across 26 countries, all of which are representing the WHO regions. Please, the next slide. So the theme for this year for FIP CPG is growth and collaboration, and how we have been able to achieve all of this and how we are still achieving some of these is by activities. The activities include representation of ECPG both internally and externally, collaborating and supporting the One FIP, supporting our members via our projects, connecting with our members and others through the public relations, collaborating with partners and FIP structures to support members via our projects as well, and basically engagement with our members through the public relations as well. Please, the next slide. So the FIP CPG have a strategic plan, which is from the year 2023 to 2030. So it's a vision plan for early career pharmacists, pharmaceutical scientists, and educators. And we have 6 strategic priorities, of which are being displayed on the screen. And if you'd like to have more information about them, you can just scan the QR code that is being displayed on the screen. Please, the next slide. Also, like I mentioned earlier, ECPG has a lot of activities, and we're involved in so many things: members engagement, networking events. We have the mentorship program, of which a webinar like this is coming up. We have also continuous professional development, like the career development toolkit. We have our leadership development program as well. And then we have creativity and innovation, as well as career success. Please, the next slide. Okay. So I'll be leaving the floor open to our moderator today in the person of Emanuela. She's the mentorship coordinator for FIP CPG 2025, and she'll be introducing our speaker. Thank you so much. I believe that you're going to have a nice time during this webinar.
Good morning, everyone. From my side, it is an absolute honor to be doing this with you all. Please do share the link and invite your fellow pharmacy students or pharmacists to join so we can all benefit from this. Today is an absolute honor to introduce Dr. Lucinda Maine, who is a trailblazer in the pharmacy profession and a visionary in health education. Dr. Maine began her journey at Urban University and went on to earn her PhD from the University of Minnesota, focusing on geriatric care, health policy, and public health. Her career spans both academia and national leadership, serving as an associate dean at Samford University and later as executive vice president and CEO of the American Association of Colleges of Pharmacy for 2 decades, a founding member of the Interprofessional Education Collaborative. She has championed experiential learning and team-based healthcare to prepare tomorrow's professional for patient-centered excellence. Her remarkable service has earned her the Remington Honor Medal, pharmacy's highest recognition, along with numerous leadership and mentorship awards. Today, she continues to make impact in Monroe, Virginia, where she and her husband, Pastor Dan Albrandt, serve their community with grace and purpose. Please join me as we welcome Dr. Lucinda Maine to take over the presentation. You're welcome, Doc.
Well, thank you. Thank you so much for that introduction. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Great. It's an honor to be here with you this morning and to participate in a project to help affirm the value of the EPCG mentorship program, which has just completed, as I understand it, the very first year. And so it was very exciting to be a part of this. Let's go to the next slide, please. I thought I'd start by sharing my own experiences and just a little bit of it because mentoring and being mentored has been a very important part of the success I have enjoyed in my own career of now almost 50 years. You can go to the next slide. So these individuals that are on the slide are key to some of my pathway. On the top are Dr. Paul Batalden, actually a pediatrician, which is funny because as my introduction indicated, I went on to graduate school because of my passion for improving drug use in the elderly. So how did a pediatrician become central to that process? Well, and the other person to the right of Dr. Batalden is Dean Larry Weaver, who was the dean at the University of Minnesota when I went and studied in graduate school there in the Department of Social and Administrative Pharmacy. The director of that department, Al Wertheimer, had taken a recommendation out of the report called Pharmacists for the Future, which was a very visionary report done by AACP with support from the Kellogg Foundation and others. And Dr. Wertheimer and Dr. Batalden were the co-directors of a program to create a pharmaceutical clinical scientist track. Now, this was back in the late 70s, early 80s, when pharmacy administration was mostly about managing and marketing rather than taking care of patients. And the Kellogg program's vision was that we would create a cadre of individuals who were as comfortable at the bedside as they were at the research bench, if you will. And Dr. Batalden became my clinical advisor in that program. He and Dean Weaver, and this is where the mentoring comes in. Well, Paul had been a mentor of mine throughout my program, but they co-created my first position after I finished my PhD at Minnesota, to stay at Minnesota on the faculty in a position at the healthcare system that Dr. Batalden was a leader in. They had 30,000 senior citizens enrolled in their programs. And it was the earliest days of having a health system be at risk for a senior adult population. And so I created an ambulatory care practice in that multi-specialty group practice, and stayed there for several years until I transitioned into academic leadership at Samford University. So that was a very important launch pad for my own career. The bottom two women, the woman on the left is Deanna Tran. And while she was a PGY1 resident after she finished her PharmD program at the University of Minnesota, she was, as a student and as a young pharmacist, and continues to today, to be actively engaged in state and national pharmacy associations. She encouraged the Virginia Pharmacists Association, when she was a resident at Virginia Commonwealth University, to reestablish a mentoring program. And so when they put out the call for mentors, I said, this sounds like a good idea. And Deanna assigned herself to me as my mentor, as her mentor, and as my mentee. That was at least 10 years ago now. And she and I continue to be in relatively regular contact. She joined the faculty at the University of Maryland, where she continues and has done some remarkable things there, like chairing a major curriculum revision activity relatively early in her career. To her right is her on-campus mentor, Cherokee. And I have to acknowledge that without Cherokee's very close guidance and support and advocacy for the work that Deanna has been working upon, I don't know that Deanna would have had made as much success as she has to date. Today, she is a leader within the American Pharmacists Association as well. And both Deanna and her pharmacist husband have now completed their years of service as president of the Maryland State Pharmacy Association. So it builds on itself and is rewarding on both sides of the mentor and mentee relationship. Let's go one more slide. So there's three things I really hope to accomplish today. I want to, first of all, define and differentiate four terms that I think are somewhat common, although the role of a sponsor is one that it took me decades to see and to understand. I'm going to quickly describe the ECPG mentorship model, and then understand the process that was used when Mitch Budden and I became a team in establishing goals and monitoring the progress of those in the ECPG program. Next slide, please. Unabashedly, I am going to share a case study because it exemplifies in a very personal way those four roles that I just mentioned. That striking young pilot in the picture is none other than my younger son, Danny Albrandt. And Danny is now in his third year as a pilot with NetJets. But the relationship I'm going to describe is a fortuitous one that coincidentally coincided with my leaving my position at AACP after having served as the CEO for 20 years. The board, of course, embarked upon a national search for my successor, and a colleague, Lee Vermeulen, was selected. And Lee and I overlapped for about 5 weeks before I left, and he took over the reins of AACP, which, if you're not familiar with AACP, is the National Association of the Schools of Pharmacy in the United States. All 142 accredited schools are institutional members of AACP. And because of some recent bylaws changes, any employee of a college of pharmacy that belongs to AACP can be a member of AACP at no cost to the individual. So that's the deans and the faculty and the professional staff are members of AACP, individual members. Well, while Lee and I overlapped, we logically shared some personal information, and that included information about our children. He and his wife, Jill, have a blended family with 5 children, but Lee was one of 4 brothers. And when I told him that Danny was about to finish his degree in aviation for pilots at Liberty University, and that he aspired, of course, to become a commercial pilot, Lee said, well, that's interesting. My brother Dave has been a pilot with NetJets for 27 years. I'd be happy to introduce Dave and Danny, and he did that right away. That was summer of 2022. Danny graduated in August of 2022, and he and Dave immediately began a relationship that I would say initially began as a role model. Dave told Danny a whole lot about his experience as a NetJet pilot. Danny had decided he didn't want to go with one of the major airlines for a variety of reasons, and quickly affirmed with Dave's support and affirmation that he would like to become a NetJet pilot. So over the course of the next several months, Dave continued to tell Danny about NetJets, but then he began to be his coach to prepare him for the interview process. And that process was in 2 steps. The first step on the 23rd of December of 2022 was a 30-minute interview with someone in the HR department of NetJets. And when that meeting ended, that person told Danny that she was advancing him to the second stage of the interview process, which was a 2-day interview in person at NetJets headquarters. And they would call it the hiring expo because they would bring in a number of candidates, and NetJets was expanding very rapidly at that point in time. So then the conversation between Dave and Danny turned to what the process was going to be like, and affirming that they were going to teach Danny how to fly their planes. But because NetJets is a fractional ownership company, a private company that companies and individuals buy a portion of the planes that NetJets operates. And they wanted to make sure that the candidates that they advanced to a NetJet pilot position had the kind of personality that would work well when they were interacting with corporate executives, professional athletes, and the other individuals that fly or are flown on NetJet's equipment. So Danny felt well prepared to go to Columbus, Ohio for this 2-day interview experience, during which time every candidate interviews in a one-on-one conversation with a member of the hiring architecture. Well, Dave now has become a sponsor. Throughout, he has really mentored Danny, as you can imagine, strong personal relationship on an ongoing basis. But Dave happened to mention to his friend, the chief pilot at NetJets, that he should look out for this young candidate, Danny Albrandt, because Dave thinks Danny would be an excellent hire for NetJets. Well, when it came time for Danny to interview with that one person, he interviewed with the chief pilot of NetJets. The interview was on Tuesday and Wednesday. Danny knew that by Friday, the hiring team was going to sit down and review the candidates that had been at that particular week's hiring expo. And on Monday, Danny Albrandt got a call from the HR department at NetJets to say, congratulations, Danny, we would like to have you come and become a first officer with us at NetJets. And I would mention that just within this month, Danny received another notification, and he will soon become a captain with NetJets after just a little bit more than 2 years of flying with the company. So it is a fabulous example of the roles that people can play in accelerating the success of an individual's career. Next slide, please. So just quickly to recap, I want to say that a role model is basically an example to follow. I have had many, many role models across my decades in pharmacy. And one point that I think is very important is that many of those have been very positive role models, but occasionally you also will encounter someone that I would just simply say is not a positive role model. And that's a person who's not doing things the way you've been taught and mentored to do them, whether that's in communication or whatever other context where the person is just not someone whose lead I am interested in following. It's important to differentiate the positive and the negative role models. Mentors should be people with whom you have long-term relationships, although not in every case, even though I shared that my relationship with Deanna has gone on now for at least a decade. But the relationship is key. I know of many mentoring programs that have been established by organizations and within schools of pharmacy, for instance, where they don't work. And they don't work for probably a lot of reasons. Sometimes it's hard to develop a good relationship at a distance, though the current program that we're talking about today, out of necessity, it's a global program. Mitch is in Australia. I'm in Virginia, and there are many hours of differences in time zones that we have navigated, as we'll talk about in a little bit. The coach identifies opportunities and helps the individual prepare for them, as Dave obviously did extraordinarily well for Danny. But a sponsor is what Dave did when Danny was going to that interview. He said to someone who he knew was very high up in the architecture of hiring new pilots, look out for this young man. He didn't say to the pilot, the chief pilot, make sure you interview him, but it just followed that on Dave's recommendation, Danny got into a relationship quickly, even before he was hired with the chief pilot. So promoting opportunities to advance the mentor. Clearly, Paul Batalden and Dean Weaver were mentors of mine throughout my graduate program, but they became dually sponsors when they co-created my first position at the University of Minnesota and Park Nicollet Medical Center in the Twin Cities of Minnesota. Next slide, please. So let's talk about the mentoring program that is hopefully going to thrive for years to come. So in late summer of 2024, FIP issued an announcement that the group was going to establish a mentoring program, and they called for volunteers to mentor in the program. And I said, you know, I'll put my name in play, just like I did with the Virginia Pharmacists Association, because I am truly committed to the advancement of young pharmacists, young people, young pharmaceutical scientists. And in late October, I received an email that said, we believe that the match for you and this young graduate student from Australia is a good match. And I accepted that. And then they immediately let Mitch know that he had been matched, and his mentor was Lucinda Maine from Virginia in the United States. We needed to quickly establish a relationship because the program asked Mitch to submit the first form with 3 goals. And so in that first conversation, we talked, first of all, we talked a lot, and this was always by Zoom, about what he was doing, what he was passionate about. Obviously, I shared information about my own career trajectory, and it created the foundation for what has been a really lovely relationship across now closing in on a full year. He submitted the form, and in each case, when there was a form to be submitted, either on his initial goals or his progress, he would fill out most of it, and then I would have a section that I would fill out that affirmed how well we were working together and the progress that he was making on his goals. The program initially said that we needed to meet at each time that we were working on one of those forms, but in our first meeting, we made the decision that we would like to meet every month. And so it was 6:30 a.m. Eastern time, and it was 10:30 p.m. in Mitch's time zone. But those were just really rich opportunities to continue to build on our relationship, celebrate the progress he was making on his goals, maybe modify the timeline a little bit if we had initially been a little ambitious, or something had happened in his environment, in his context, that meant he had to prioritize his time on one of his goals over the other couple. But he was making progress along the way on all of his goals. And we submitted quarterly reports in February and May, and just recently submitted the report that said, done, all 3 goals. And I'll say this, in addition to that, he happened to get married and have a honeymoon and do a whole bunch of other things along the way. Next slide, please. So I hope this is the most important thing you take away from today's program, that the solid relationship is central to effective mentoring. As I mentioned, he shared a lot of information about his graduate program, his passion and commitment to community pharmacy practice, and some of the research activities and publication activities he was working on in his graduate program. He really identified some draft goals, and we talked about a realistic timeline. SMART goals are what FIP has indicated are core to their program, and that's not an uncommon acronym for goals that are specific, they are measurable, they are achievable. Too oftentimes, in strategic planning and in goal setting, we set things that are just not achievable in the timeline that they have been proposed. So you really have to pay attention to that to make sure that the R is realistic and that they are timely. If Mitch had set goals for things that assumed that he had already finished his PhD program, that would not have been realistic, nor would it have been timely. And the deliverables should be complete, should be concrete. And those 3 that I mentioned in parentheses were the 3 goals that Mitch established: a systematic review on scope of practice, which was very interesting and has just been published, complete all modules in a home medication review course, and increase his level of activity in FIP. Next slide, please. The form also asked some really important questions, and in the orange box was Mitch's response to what his expectations were in being involved in this mentorship program. And in the longer term, a broad perspective on his career path, learned from my experience in the profession, and then apply the advice that I might provide to his journey. And throughout the last 9 months or so, every one of our monthly meetings was an opportunity to provide some feedback and advice on his goals. We immediately established in a virtual model open and honest communications. And some people might think that you have to have in-person contact with your mentor or mentee in order for a relationship to be successful. But we have proven the case that mentoring can and does work in a virtual model. And then we both shared experiences and challenges about what's going on in the profession of pharmacy nationally and then also globally. Next slide, please. And so I made sure that Mitch knew that I was going to be speaking today. And as you can see on your screen, most likely, he is with us. So Mitch, I'd love for you to just share some perspective on your experience in our relationship.
Yeah, of course. Thank you for giving me the chance to do that. And yes, very sweet and kind things you've said so far. And completely honest, like the program it's one of those kind of scary things when you get the opportunity to engage with someone that you've never met before. You don't know how the relationship's going to grow or how it's going to be. Will you click with the person or won't you? But I guess in our case, I was very fortunate to be paired with Lucinda, and we just really hit it off from the get-go. So it worked really well for me in terms of holding myself accountable to achieving my goals. And the monthly contact was an excellent thing. Like I think if we left it to doing just the bare minimum, it probably wouldn't have been as beneficial in terms of the experience or the kind of benefits that we both kind of gained from doing the program and kind of going, all right, from the get-go, we're going to meet on a monthly basis. We're going to touch point. And each month I kind of set myself, I suppose, like mini goals in what I could do to achieve my kind of broader goals. And it was always for me, I want to be able to kind of come to this meeting and go through what I've done. So I was kind of really excited to share how far I had come in terms of achieving the goal that I had set out. So, um, it's an amazing program, and anyone that hasn't done it, I would definitely suggest that you do kind of get involved. You never know who you're going to meet, and I think it's an excellent opportunity to engage with someone outside of your immediate network. So, as Lucinda said, she's based in the States, I'm based in Australia, so time zone's definitely a big challenge, but I've got to learn so much from her in terms of her experience and her career and all the opportunities that she's had along the way, kind of thing. And it's given me a lot of insight into terms what I could potentially do with my career post grad school, which I'm very much looking forward to. And again, like it's coming up to almost a year now since we first met. So we had our most recent meeting, I think it was a week ago now.
Mhm.
And we were just talking about the potential for continuing to catch up on a ad hoc basis kind of thing. So again, the relationship's kind of gotten to the point where it's gone past the set timeline for the program, and now we're kind of just having catch-ups when it suits us kind of thing. So I think it's been a really nice experience, and Lucinda's been fantastic in terms of connecting me with people in similar kind of interest fields. So every time we have a meeting, she'll be like, "Yep, I know the exact person who you need to speak to," and she'll organize a Zoom meeting. She'll get us to liaise by email with these new connections, and it's actually been really beneficial to speak to people that I wouldn't have even thought of speaking to. So yeah, it's been a really lovely experience.
Good. Why don't you say a few things about that goal that you had about getting more involved in FIP?
Yeah, so yeah, one of the goals I set was becoming more involved within FIP. It's something that since my first Congress in 2023, I set myself that kind of goal. I want to become more involved, especially with an ECPG. And any opportunity that's come up with these programs, so whether it's been the Pathfinder program, whether it's been the leadership development program, I've tried to be proactive and put my hand up and go, look, I'm going to try this, something different, meet new people, upskill. And for me, like being involved in these programs, doing that, uh, being selected as the liaison for the hub, I feel that, yeah, I've definitely met that goal of becoming more involved and connecting with people that are like-minded. Like I find FIP is just an excellent way for people that are passionate about pharmacy to kind of meet, come together, and just continue to broaden their horizons, their career, and build and learn from one another in order to advance the profession. So it's been really, really nice becoming more active FIP. I feel that I'm connecting with a lot of people internationally, and when I've been to Congress in Denmark this year, it was nice to meet up with people face to face instead of just on Zoom and actually kind of, yeah, celebrate what we've achieved in the leadership program. And yeah,
And I have attended the FIP Congress quite a number of times, especially in my 20 years at AACP. Um, because of a lot of other travel commitments this summer, I did not go to Copenhagen, which my greatest disappointment was that I was not going to get to meet Mitch yet in person. But obviously, we will at some future point in time. I've already committed to being in Montreal,
I
and
was going to say, we do have Montreal, we have Canada.
yes, absolutely. We will be there I will be there for absolute sure. It happens to be just the beginning of the Congress happens to be just a few days after that pilot son of mine marries a wonderful woman. And they are about to become parents of a puppy. So we'll see how that influences their their well-being. We're not sure they're prepared, but at any rate, let's go to the next slide, please. So yes, I wanted to make sure we left ample time for people to either ask questions or share your own experience in mentoring. So let's just make sure that anyone who wants to speak, maybe raise your hand if you have that capability so that they know you want to be taken off mute. And maybe you could put the slides down at this point, just at least temporarily, so that everybody can be on the screen. Questions or comments? Mitch, is it like 12:30 or 1 o'clock, 1:30?
It's almost 1 o'clock. It's 12:40 at the moment. So nice and late. But I did have a bit of a snooze this afternoon, so I'm rested.
Good. And why don't you share with people how close you are to the end of your graduate program?
Yes, very close now. So I'm in the midst of writing my thesis up. We've got 2 more papers that are going through review at the moment. So hopefully they'll be published soon and they will form part of my thesis by publication. But yeah, the goal is hopefully, if I'm being overly ambitious, it'll be before January. But a realistic timeline is most likely the end of January, which is still not a massive difference, but yeah, it'd be a nice Christmas present to have it done before then. So we'll see what happens. But yeah, at the moment, I'm just kind of drafting my chapters and going through the process of review with my supervisors. And yeah.
That's great. Manuela? You're muted.
Married?
Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
Yes, so I have a question that I want to ask. How can a mentee take ownership of the mentorship process without overstepping or becoming overly dependent on their mentor? Looking at your story with Mitch, we do see that Mitch did take ownership at some point, but this is also something that a lot of mentees do struggle with. So I just wanted to know, in your own experience and opinion, how can mentees do this?
You know, that's a really good question. And I think that there needs to be some chemistry. I'll revert to pharmaceutical terms here. And that goes back to doing everything that both parties can do. One party cannot create a relationship. So both individuals have to come into this relationship looking for a partnership. I guess is the important thing. I would reflect that early on, Mitch came to the table with the ideas about what his priorities were in the course of the time that we were going to be working together. Together, we nurtured those ideas, talked about, what was going to make it successful to accomplish these goals. And from that, as he mentioned, I'm a connector. It's one of the things I love to do the most. And over the course of 5 decades in the profession of pharmacy, which is actually really small, even in the global context. So it was very easy for me. He was working on scope of practice, and I knew that there was an organization in pharmacy in the U.S. that was following scope of practice evolution in the United States and had some resources. But Very quickly, though, the conversation was, how are you progressing? Where are you on each of those goals? And he owned that. And so at no time did I believe that he was overstepping in our relationship. I just don't think that that could have been possible. Well, it could have been possible, I suppose, but it never happened. So thanks for asking that question. Anyone else? And Mitch, I have to just guess that because we became comfortable right away, you never worried about whether or not you were out of bounds.
No, I think that like I don't know whether it's a good or a bad thing, but for me, if I'm comfortable with someone, like the whole idea of overstepping never really crosses my mind because it's like if I'm comfortable with the person, my general assumption is that person's also comfortable with me. And therefore it's like if I am overstepping, they're gonna tell me that like, hey, hold on, like take a step back. But again, I don't feel that I overstepped, and I think it's one of those things like I knew what I wanted to achieve and what I wanted to get out of this program. And not only that, like I find that the style of how we had our discussions and the general approach to that has helped me with my PhD in terms of kind of structuring my meetings. I know that for a long time in the beginning, there was a big struggle with, okay, like this is actually my meeting, like I'm running the show. It's not my supervisor's going like, okay, like we're just meeting randomly. What do you want me to do? It's like, well, hold on, no, this is my meeting. Like, this is what I need. This is where I'm at. So it's really helped me kind of structure my meetings a lot better in that sense. So yeah, a lot of positive outcomes.
Great. Clara?
Yes, thank you. I think there's, before I ask my own question, there's a question in the chat.
Yes, I have taken notice of the question. Don't worry, I will attend to it as soon as possible.
Okay. Thank you for your presentation today. I was wondering in the beginning, you mentioned that there were some, in your own life, there were some positive mentors and some negative mentors. So I was wondering, how can we differentiate a positive one and a negative one? Is it only the connection we have with the person, or are there more factors we could keep in mind when we are choosing a mentor? And for the same as a mentee, what is a positive mentee and what is a negative mentee? Thank you.
You can apply positive and negative or successful and unsuccessful mentoring relationships. I had really made the point about positive and negative role models, which are much more passive in many ways, relationships. These are just people that you either do or don't want to emulate in your own professional or personal life. But from my observation about mentoring programs that might not always work well or work as well as this one that we've experienced, it is sometimes the assignment of a mentor to a mentee. I don't know exactly how the ECPG group, leadership group, did their matching, because even though the leader, Ally Jo Shipman, is somebody that I have worked with in her association management roles in the United States. But I don't know, Mitch, that you knew Ally Jo personally.
No, I only met Ellie Jo a few times on Zoom and I think maybe once at Congress, but not well enough to be
Yeah.
not like our relationship, no.
So, she knew enough to think that this pairing was going to be successful, but sometimes that just doesn't work that way. And I haven't been in a situation where an individual who was considered to be my mentor, the relationship didn't work. I have not had that happen. And in part because I think I choose pretty carefully the people who I think would enhance my journey, my professional journey. So I think it really does come down to how the matching is done, what level of control or responsibility. I think that if we hadn't gotten off to such a good start from the beginning, I might have, contacted Ally Joe, not immediately, but let's say that Mitch had just not really expressed that much interest in identifying goals and working toward them. That would have meant that the program was not going to work for us. And so fortunately that just didn't happen at all. So I hope that somewhat addresses your question. Cien?
Yes, thank you.
Hello. Well, good night from Papua New Guinea. So my question is, how can we fully utilize this program, especially considering the fact that I am working from a country such as PNG, which is in the Pacific, and the scope of pharmacy is not as advanced as other countries like the US or Australia? Yes, that's my question.
No country, in my opinion, has yet achieved what I would call nirvana in terms of the ability to fully put pharmacists' knowledge, skills, and abilities and passion for patient care or research in whatever context that you're working in. So I have no doubt that you could find a mentor that would listen and appreciate the context that you find yourself in Papua New Guinea, and help you identify what can I do as a young person, to move my own career forward, and hopefully in doing that, stimulate some important change in your country. Now, you're not going to do that overnight. The United States is not where my vision for it grew to be. And there's lots of reasons for that: state regulation, lack of reimbursement for patient care services. But I've always been in a position where, in little ways, and in some cases, bigger ways, I make a down payment. I make a contribution. And one of the ones that I'm most proud of, quite frankly, was in my introduction, the work that I did while I was at AACP about halfway through my 20 years there. Pharmacy accreditation standards for the education of a PharmD assumed that that person was going to be engaged in team-based care, because we knew that medication use was central to quality healthcare, and that without pharmacists actively involved in a healthcare team, they were not going to be as successful in managing that component of care as they would be if a pharmacist was in the right place. And so I helped to establish the Interprofessional Education Collaborative, along with my colleagues in academic medicine, both allopathic and osteopathic, nursing, dentistry, and public health. And so the six of us, as CEOs of our respective organizations, committed to a long-term game plan for changing accreditation standards, although that was not the first thing we set out to do. We created competencies for IPE, and we offered faculty development programs to help faculty from. If you came to that faculty development program, you could bring a team of 5, but at least 3 had to represent different disciplines. And you would go home with a plan for introducing IPE in your school. So that was probably one of the largest singular accomplishments in my career. But I didn't do it alone, and it didn't happen overnight. It's still a work in progress. But today there's 22 organizations around the IPEC table. So we brought a lot of other people into the fold, working collectively to make that happen. So I wish you the very, very best as you try to make a difference in your country and in your context.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Anyone else? Well, it is late for many of you, and I have thoroughly enjoyed the time we've had together. Mitch, I thank you so much for staying up, getting a little snooze in the middle of the day, and look forward to our next conversation in early December.
Yes.
My best to all of you and to the ECPG.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Dr. Lucinda. Thank you, Mitch. It was good to have you here. Thoroughly enjoyed the session as well. Emanuela, could you please share the slides? We have some announcements to make, so it's important to stay back for these announcements. Emanuela, the slides, please.
There we go.
Thank you so much. So these are the announcements. First of all, we have a call. As you know, during the discussion, Mitch mentioned the FIP Congress, which is taking place in Montreal, Canada. So we are in need of someone who will serve as a liaison between ECPG, just to ensure that everything goes smoothly, because ECPG is also going to be involved in the Congress. So in case you are the person or you know someone who can fit into this role, please kindly scan the barcode and fill out the form, and any other information that you need, it's also in the barcode. Or if you are not sure of anything you're seeing on the barcode, you could just send an email to us at ecpg@fip.org. Next is the FIP ECPG subcommittee call. So based on the discussion as well, Mitch was saying that he would like to get that he has actually improved his participation in FIP and FIP ECPG activities. So there's going
We can't
Looks like
hear
we
you.
lost Gus
I think
Gift.
I think it cut out.
Hello, can I be heard?
Yes.
Looks like we lost Gus Gift. Just give me a moment as I try to get her back.
I think my network trip. I'm sorry about that. Can you hear me now?
Yes, we
Hello?
can.
Uh, okay, sorry about that. Can everybody hear me now?
Yes.
Yes, we can. We can hear you.
Thank you. Thank you. So I was saying that there's the ECPG subcommittee call. So if you would like to be a part of the subcommittee for next year, serving just as Emanuela is serving currently as the mentorship coordinator, there are so many opportunities. The call will be out later this week, so please be on the lookout. Educators all over the world. So be on the lookout for them as well. They will be posted on our social media platforms. And then we also have another webinar that is coming up around December. So also be on the lookout for that. And I also need to mention that the next cohort for the mentorship program is upcoming, and applications will be out sometime next month as well. So please be on the lookout for all of these. Last but not least, there's a call for FIP ECPG chairperson for projects. So if you believe you have the capabilities as well as the capacity to be able to hold this position, please do scan the barcode and submit your application. Deadline for it is the 1st of November. Next slide, please. Okay, So thank you so much once again to our wonderful speakers. I'm the person of Dr. Lucinda and Mitch. It was really a nice session. We're very grateful. So if you have any questions, please reach out to us. ecpg@fip.org is our email. You can reach out to us on our social media platforms. We're on WhatsApp, we're on LinkedIn, we're on X, we're on Instagram, Facebook. And in case you missed anything in this session, you can rewatch it. So we're going to be uploading it on our YouTube channel. So do well to also subscribe to our YouTube channel and be on the lookout for previous and upcoming webinars. And peradventure you're not a member of FIP ECPG, please scan the barcode and please be a member so that you can benefit from all of these opportunities. Thank you so much and have a very lovely weekend, everyone. Bye.